Thank you for contacting Wave Support. I see from your clinical request you have a patient who's, from a vision standpoint, seems to be successful with their gas perm contacts, but is struggling with some late-day comfort and some filming issues. And just looking at your designs, they actually look pretty good overall. A couple thoughts. As you know, this patient doesn't have a whole lot of corneal cylinder, and one of the things I've kind of found through the years that sometimes these Wave designs, although I love to design in these G-Sim lenses, sometimes they match that cornea so nicely that we get almost no tear exchange. And so, as you know, a lot of these patients have borderline dry eye, if not meibomian gland issues. And so sometimes if we take that person with the less than stable or less than robust tear film layer and get a lens on there that's not getting enough tear flow underneath, we run into some dry eye issues. And I suspect that what you're really seeing is some dry eye issues causing that lens to film up on the front surface, maybe some lipid deposits and everything else. And so the question is, how do we get around that? And then I'll share a case that I had on my own. If we look at these designs, I think overall it sounds like you're doing really well with the actual vision standpoint. They actually look pretty good overall. I'd probably do something very similar in my design. But with those late-day comfort issues, I would probably see how we can get more tear pumping underneath those lenses. And there's probably two ways I would do it. I'd probably keep it real simple. The first thing I do, I know we're all kind of trained to design an axial design, but I quite often find it better to go to tangential in these patients. If you recall, axial tends to give you a little steeper design, and it mimics the central cornea rather well, but it's less precise out here in the peripheral cornea, where tangential tends to give you a little bit better relationship out here in the peripheral cornea, and it tends to be a little flatter in design. So a lot of times in these cases, just to get a little more tear exchange, I simply switch over to tangential, if we can get that to go, and then just redesign the lens. And what you'll see, you get a really nice looking lens here that probably gives you a little bit more alignment here in this peripheral zone. And if you look at the overall numbers, it makes it about a quarter to half diopter less steep, or flattens it up a little bit. So that on its own may give you a little bit more exchange there. And then I'm not always, with these patients, not adverse to just increasing that tear pump a little bit more. Getting this little edge clearance up a little bit higher. Just kind of clicking up a few clicks there. And quite often I find if you can get a little bit better tear flow under these lenses that don't dry out as much and don't film up as the day goes on as much. Another thought with lens material, Boston X02 is a great material, as you know. Sometimes I go back to some of the basics and just swap out some of these plastics for some of the older generation plastics to see if I get a little different interaction there. But if you're having that much difficulty having to clean with ProGent and everything else, I suspect that you've got more of a dry eye issue going on. Just to share, and the same thing on the other eye, the designs overall look pretty good. Just to share kind of in my own experience, I had a patient of a kind of similar presentation where I went around for months with her chasing tails over these lenses that were filming up. By late in the afternoon, she had a hard time wearing them. They were so filmy. She was taking them out to clean them halfway through the day. And I looked at them, they looked pretty good, but she had some mild meibomian gland issues. I tried medications, treatment, lid scrubs, allergy drops, combination drops, everything. Nothing seemed to work. And one day I said, well, let's try to go a little bit larger. And I initially tried a semi-scleral lens, which she felt wasn't too bad in her eye, but she had a little trouble handling it. So I just went up a little bit larger. She was at about a 9.8. I went up to about a 10.7 just to maximize the size of the cornea. We just tried it in one eye first, and she called back ecstatic, said it solved most of her problems, and wanted me to replace her other lens the same way. And I think in that particular case, what we found was that just getting the lens a bit larger, I was able to tuck it under the lid, creating a little less awareness in that eye and less interaction. So for me, that was one successful way that I approached a case. But again, in your case, the designs look pretty good. I would just try to get a little more tear pump underneath there. And I think if you get that, I think you might find that these lenses do perform a little bit better. So with that said, I wish you well with this difficult case, and good luck. Have a great day.